Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining me. If you hop onto this live Zoom or you decide to watch me after on one of the recordings that I'm going to go ahead and post on all of our social media and YouTube channels. So thank you for joining me this Friday night. We're going to be going over just a little information on how to retrain our brain for permanent pain relief. So I wanted to do this Zoom and this meeting and informational video for those of you that are watching the recorded version to start to get it out there about being more mindful about our bodies and the way that our brain connects to our muscles and how habitual tension is created and how damaging it can be when it's negative habitual tension that's created. So just to tell you a little bit about who I am, my name is Jennifer Duranzik. I'm a 16-year orthopedic massage therapist and a 3-year somatic educator. So my background has always been in orthopedic, holistic medicine and treating the body's functional disorders through holistic and non-medical or non-medicinal ways. So about 3 years ago, actually about 4 years ago, I had been a therapist for so long and I got really frustrated with the way that my clients were getting better, but then they weren't getting better permanently. So then I started to study neuroscience and found the world of somatics and realized that this was really the key for my clients and everyone to learn how to talk to their bodies again and find permanent pain relief. So I also own Fusion Whole Body Recovery, which is in Colleyville, Texas. You can check us out at www.fusionwbrecovery.com if you want to learn more about my business, where we mix several different holistic modalities to help you and your own individual needs get back to a pain-free life and a healthier well-being, as well as teaching you how to do that on your own, become self-regulating and not have to need people all the time, every time you're in pain. So we're going to go ahead and get started about, how does functional disorder or functional dysfunction happen? So they've shown that 80% of pain is from functional dysfunction. Functional dysfunction is meaning your body creates habitual patterns that create tension in your body that then become a muscle memory pattern. And then that muscle memory after long-term time creates issues in the body that can lead to things like arthritis, sciatica, rotator cuff injuries, knee surgeries. So what I deal with every day is functional disorders where people come into my office and they say, I'm in pain. I don't know how I got there. And it just happened overnight, which it doesn't. And that's what we're going to be kind of going through over today. So to kind of give you a little informative information about what SMA is, it's sensory motor amnesia. So our muscles, to kind of make it layman term, our muscles do two things. They contract and they relax. What controls our muscle contraction and relaxation is our brain. So when we do things on a habitual level, like sitting at a desk, playing volleyball with one hand, one hand serves, any type of sport really that you're not using the full body, driving, sleeping on one side, then you start to notice that those areas start to create chronic tension because you're basically training your brain that this action is so repetitive that it needs to become your new normal. So I always like to compare it to like an athlete, specifically a baseball player throwing a pitch. A baseball player is going to be throwing a baseball. He wants to learn a new fastball technique or a curveball. He's going to be practicing and practicing and practicing and really focusing on the movement, the rotation of the ball, the speed of his throw, the release. He's going to be really focusing on that. And then eventually what's going to happen is that pitch is going to become second nature. It's going to become subcortical. So anytime he wants it, he's going to be able to pull it out of his subconscious and he's going to be able to throw that baseball the way that he wants. Well, whenever you sit at a desk, you're teaching your body habitual tension patterns as well. So you're teaching your body that my shoulders need to be rounded forward, that I'm in a seated position. So I'm going to shorten my hip flexors, and I'm going to create chronic tension in my knees. So what we need to do is actually become more mindful of our mind and body using our sensory motor system. So it's a very scientific process. So we're going to be using that idea of mindfulness to retrain our body out of these bad habits that we've created. So the process, I always say persistence, patience, and positivity is the 3 P's of somatics and retraining your brain to let go of habit, because these habits didn't form overnight. Just like that baseball player, he didn't learn how to throw the perfect pitch overnight. It's going to take time, but you are going to create new patterns, new subcortical patterns. And so later on, when you learn how to talk to your body again, how to release chronic tension, how to reset it out of a habitual movement, it's much easier to get back to that. It's kind of like riding a bike. So at the beginning of a lot of the movements that I'm just going to go over a couple of them tonight, at the beginning of retraining your brain, you may have to do a lot of this daily, and then eventually it becomes something that you may only need to do in the heat of the moment when you start to feel your body having tension. So let's just talk a little bit about positive and negative muscle memory and a couple of examples. So positive muscle memory is the athlete, they're doing a purpose. It comes in handy. Like, it's really great that you learn how to perform in your sport at a high level. Another positive form of muscle memory, learning how to write with your right hand. But most muscle memory, if it's taken to a certain level, can become negative. So just to kind of show you how ingrained a lot of this muscle memory is, I want you to sit at home right now, and I just want you to cross your arms. So go ahead and cross your arms for me. Okay, feel how easy that was. Now go ahead and try and cross them the other way. Okay, you have to take a second and think, because the first pattern was a habitual subcortical pattern that you've learned. The other one isn't learned. So you can imagine if you have the same habit on one side over and over and over, that's the dominant side of the habit, it's going to get worn down, it's going to get tight, it's going to cause some pain later on in life. So this habitual tension can cause things like chronic hip pain, which leads to sciatica. It can lead to chronic rounded shoulders, which then makes your head forward, which then causes the military neck, which you may have heard from your chiropractor, which then causes compression in the discs, which then causes nerve pain down the arms, which causes, numbing and tingling. So there's a bunch of, first there was this, then there was this, then there was this, then there was this. So we need to learn how to talk to our bodies when they start to have these little whispers of discomfort, like some rounded shoulders. So we can prevent a lot of these chronic issues coming up, so we don't end up with rotator cuff pain, those neck issues I was talking about, sciatica, knee replacements, hip replacements, and then really any type of chronic issues that you seem to have, like even headaches and migraines can be caused by issues like this. So the first thing I want to go over as far as fixing this SMA and these habitual tension patterns that have now formed in our body is mindfulness. Now, mindfulness, you may have heard a lot in yoga practice, may think it's a little woo-woo, but mindfulness really just means feeling your body in that moment and understanding what you're feeling. So a good way to do that is body scanning. If you've never done body scanning before, it's an amazing technique for relaxation, but it's also good for getting to know your body again. So you lay on the ground. If you want to do this at home, we can go ahead and do that. I'll walk you through it. So I'm going to give you a couple beats. You can either sit in a comfortable seat if you think you're going to fall asleep on the floor, or you can go ahead and lay on your back with your arms to your side and your legs stretched out or bent at the knees with the feet on the ground. So you guys go ahead and take some time doing that. And we're just going to get reacquainted with our body so we can start becoming more mindful. We can start making those permanent changes. So we don't know what we don't know. I always tell that to my clients. So doing a body scan lets us know where there are some issues. So now that you're on the ground or you're in a seated position and comfortable, I want you to go ahead and close your eyes and just let yourself sink into that position. Now, this practice isn't necessarily, it's not judgmental. We just need to feel our body and see where it's in the moment. So I'm going to have you go ahead and start at the top of the head and just feel in the top of the head. Notice if you feel any tingling, maybe on one side or the other, or discomfort and pulling. Notice if you feel pressure on the base of the skull if you're laying down. If you're seated, notice if you feel like your head's maybe tilting to the right or the left. Also, if you're laying down on the ground, do you feel like it's hard to let your head rest back? If you notice any of these things like pain or tension, take note of it because that is your body talking to you. And during a somatic practice, you can use this information to get the best results. So if you notice your head may be tilting to the right or left, that's going to be a sign of tension on that same side, maybe in the shoulder, maybe in the pec. If you notice that your head's tilting back a little bit, your chin's up towards the ceiling, and it was hard for you to let your head rest, that's a sign of a lot of tension in the neck. Once you, in the front of the neck, and once you really think about it, wouldn't that make sense? If my head is hovering above the ground and I can't bring it back, what would be causing that to happen? It'd be front body tension. If my head wants to tilt to the right, what would be causing that? Chronic tension on the right. Okay, now go down to the shoulders, whether you're seated or laying down. Place your hands on your shoulders and kind of notice, do you feel like you're really rounding forward? Do you feel like the shoulders are coming off the ground a little too much? Or do they feel like they're laying nice and flat against the floor, no pain, no discomfort, nothing? Also notice if you feel like one shoulder may be rounded more than the other. If you notice that, this area of the chest, again, think, what would be causing my shoulder to round forward? It would be tension in the chest. It would be tension in the shoulder right in front here. If it's bilaterally tight and you notice both shoulders really aren't laying down on the ground, you could have tension in both areas of the chest. Also into the abdominal muscles. If you are seated at a desk for a long period of time, you're going to be depressing down and rolling forward. So that forward rotation of the shoulders could also be created by some tension in the abdominal area. Okay, now let's make our way down to the hips. So just feel yourself, if you're seated, kind of rock back and forth. Notice if you feel any tension or stiffness through the hips. If you're laying down, do you feel like you're leaning to one side or the other? Do you feel like one butt cheek is heavier than the other? If you notice that, whatever butt cheek you're rolling on, you're rotating towards that side. So you've got some chronic tension on that side that's pulling you to that side. So take note of that. And make your way down your legs. Do you feel like your legs are wanting to flare out and the feet are wanting to fall out? Or do you feel like you're more pigeon-toed and feet going in? Again, use that body awareness. If my feet are rotating out, what would be the likely cause? It'd be outside tension pulling it out. If I've got pigeon-toed feet and they're going in, what would be causing that? Inner thigh, inner tension, even into the pelvic floor, that would be causing it. And then go through the knees, kind of feel through the knees. Are your knees touching, the back of the knees touching the ground? Are they staying bent? If they're staying bent, you may have some hamstring tension, some quad tension. Notice if one side's worse than the other. Like, oh yeah, my right leg can straighten, but then my left leg's struggling. Then get down to the ankles, roll the ankles out simultaneously. Feel how they feel. Do they feel tight? Do they feel restricted? Does it hurt? Then go down or go around the other way, roll them in, and kind of notice the same thing. Okay, and then when you're done, go ahead and relax. And as you do the body scan, I want you guys to note and put in your back pocket, I noticed my right shoulder was tight. I noticed my left hip was tight. I noticed my head kind of pulled towards the right, because all that information is your body talking to you. I always say, we should be listening to the whispers before they become screams. So these are the whispers of our body. Body scanning is really great. It's meant for a purpose. It's meant to connect our sensory system back to our motor system. So this is a really important practice to start integrating into your daily life. If you're in a stage where you're like, I'm in pain, I need a way to get out of it, and I want to try this. So everyone really should be doing it on a daily basis, but unfortunately, as human beings, we tend to not do things that take time until we're in so much pain and we just can't take it anymore. So going into the next bit, I'm going to tell you a little bit about, now that you know what SMA is and habitual tension is, I'm going to tell you about somatics. So somatics is where I teach you and where I sometimes do one-on-one sessions, how to talk to your body again, meaning it's a highly effective form of neuromuscular retraining where we either use conscious focus or resistance to re-trigger the brain to focus on that area that has created habitual tension. So when you have a habitually tight area, that means that your brain has recognized a certain amount of contraction in the muscle as normal. So your brain has lost full function of the range of motion in that muscle. So you can imagine if you have a tight muscle and let's say you are opening the leg and it's tight in your hip, the thought of pressing down and stretching is terrifying to your brain because to your brain, it's relaxed. So what you need to do is that you can't press it down to stretch. This is why they found that stretching is very temporary and it doesn't have long-term benefits because it's subconscious. So what you need to do is that area has become habitually tight. It's become a amnesic part in your brain. What you do is you actually get it to contract because with a chronically tight muscle, that's one thing it can do. It can contract more. It's just forgotten how to let go past a certain percent. So what you do is you use yourself, you use your gravity, but you use, or just incredible mindfulness, you use the idea of contracting the area of tension. So that causes you to focus. I'm focusing on contraction. And then as I press my knee down, I'm actually pressing back up into my hand. So I'm consciously letting my hand win as I reteach my hip to open up. So basically, I want you to start looking at tight areas in your body as I don't stretch those. I need to contract into it and then fully, slowly teach it how to lengthen. Contract into it, teach it how to lengthen. I like to compare it to when you have a necklace that is knotted. We don't pull and stretch and force. Somatics is like pulling and figuring out the knot and slowly guiding you out of the knot instead of forcing it. So think about that with your body. If your back is spasming, what do? You don't stretch a spasm because then it's going to spasm more. It's going to rebel. That's something called stretch reflex. You're going to say, fine, if you want to contract, I'm going to just give in to you. I'm going to gently, slowly contract into it. And then I'm going to slowly teach you how to come out. I'm going to gently, slowly focus on contracting. And I'm going to slowly, gently ease out. So there's a couple moves that I want to show you to kind of round out this short lesson. And those are two that are incredibly profound in many ways. So I'm going to show you the simplest term, but I could really teach you these same two moves in a million different ways to help whatever you have going on. But you want to do this on the floor, or you want to do it on a hard surface. My bed here is not ideal, but zooming at home, this is what happens. So I'm going to go ahead and lay down for you. This move is meant to fully release the low back and the abdomen. So let me show you at first what the mission here is. So this is for people that have over-exaggerated backs. And then also you can get something called a depressed chest and rounded shoulder. So let's say Sally came in and she said, I have a herniated disc in my low back. She walks in like this.
traditional PT, what they're going to do is they're going to get her to strengthen her abs. So this area is still very tight. They're going to get her to strengthen her abs, causing the back to straighten like this. Yes, it opens up the back, but now we have chronic tension through the back. Now we have chronic tension through the front. So we have something called dark vice, where the spine now has become trapped between two contractions. Instead of just fixing the problem, which was the tension of the back, the habitual tension that's formed from, sitting, or for us females, we always feel like we need to stand up straight. So we have to create this over exaggerated curve, which, let me go on a side note right here. Whenever you stick your butt out, it just makes you look fatter. So I'll show you. So if I have a tummy here, and I'm like, oh, I need to stick my butt out and stick my booty out, and then it'll make me look skinnier. That's not true. Because what happens when I stick my butt out like this? What happens to my spine? It goes out. It makes me look bigger. So what we need to do is actually just let that back go back neutral. You'll notice it's much flatter compared to this, where I'm sticking my belly out now because I've got a over exaggerated curve. So anyways, I digress. This helps with that as well. So the move that I'm going to show you to unlock the low back and the abdominal area is something called the arch and flat, and it's something you need to learn in somatics. It's like the number one thing, plus it drives all the other moves, because if the midline isn't happy, nothing's happy. Our arms, our shoulders, our neck, our knees, our ankles, everything is dictated by our midline. If our midline is stuck, everything down the river gets affected. So you're going to lie on your back here. And do this on the ground. Keep your booty on the floor. The knees and feet are hip width apart. And all it is a deep inhale in, arch your back, press your tailbone down into the ground, and then very slowly ease off until it relaxes. So as you can imagine, if I have an over exaggerated curve habitually, I'm going to kind of already be doing this little bit of an arch. It's kind of subtle to see, but as you do it, I can't force my back flat, but what I can do is arch more, inhale in, press the tailbone down into the ground, slowly exhale. I can teach it how to let go. Do that again. Inhale in, I'm going to make my belly big. That's going to help me open up my chest more and arch my back more. Slow, gentle ease off. Okay, now we're going to do the opposite, which is a flatten. So what a flatten does is I'm now going to engage all of my front body, and I'm going to open my back. So deep inhale in and neutral. Exhale out. And as I exhale, I'm going to tuck my pelvis, tuck, 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 tuck. And I'm going to open up my back. And once you get good at this, you can actually feel the whole spine opening up, because I'm opening up the whole posterior part of my spine, and I'm closing the whole thing, because I can actually feel my head getting lighter off the floor. I can feel my shoulders wander around. So everything in my anterior front is tightening, as simultaneously everything in the back is opening up. So you're going to want to combine these two moves at home. So it's going to be a deep inhale in, pressing your tailbone into the ground. I notice that my hips want to come out, my legs want to open, because this is going to cause everything on the outside to tighten, including my back. And then slowly exhale, be as smooth and controlled and simultaneous as possible. Inhale in neutral. Exhale and start the tuck, 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 opening the spine, opening the spine. And then slowly ease off. Okay, so as we do this, what we're doing is we're teaching our back to open and close, creating more space in the areas of in between the vertebrae. So if you have disc issues, this one's a really good one, because especially with bulging discs that you can still save, you're going to be massaging that disc and opening up the space so it can bump back into where it needs to be in that disc space instead of bulging out. So that's an awesome move. So the other one I wanted to show you was for chronic tension in the traps.
So just looking at myself here, just take a look at me, straighten it up here. Now, to a trained eye, it might not be easy to an untrained eye, but I can definitely tell this shoulder's higher than this one. I mean, when I put my hands here, you can kind of notice more. So that tells me that this area is very tight. This area is tight. That causes a lot of that chronic pain and needle-like feeling in the back of the neck and shoulder. It can also cause headaches up into the occipital muscles, which are those right back here in the back base of the skull. And then once that gets really tight, you get those nice nice referral migraines into the front of the head. So to show you this move, you want to find something heavy, like a carton of milk, a 5-pound weight. I'm going to use my meditation pillow here. And you just hold it in your hand. Yeah, tilt this up a little bit so you can see my shoulder. So you've probably seen people shoulder shrug at work or at the gym. It's going to be like this. Okay, I'm trying to strengthen this trap. You can see my trap firing here. You can even put your hands there if you want at home to feel it engaging. So this would be an exercise. Lift, release, lift, release. Now to release my trap, what I'm going to do is I'm going to consciously contract this muscle and consciously release. You use the weight as something as a counterweight to work against, so your brain has something to grasp onto. So it's going to be a big contraction. I'm going to bring that shoulder up towards the ear as high as possible. And then I'm going to slow, 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 slow release. So I'm letting the weight of the pillow pull me down. Okay, got my stopping point here. I'm going to lift, engage the trap, and slow, slow, slow release. Okay, my new stopping point, contract, slow, 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 release. And then we'll do one more time. Contract. And I like to imagine that my shoulder blade is just sliding down my rib cage, using that weight to lengthen my shoulder. Okay, great. So now I'm gonna straighten myself back up, and you're gonna notice, yeah, actually it's awesome. Like you can see my right shoulder is now longer than my left. So this is why we do everything bilaterally, so you don't end up messing up the other side as well. So you can do this at home. That's going to decrease tension in the neck and shoulders. It'll improve headaches. But that's just 2 moves that can show you how you at home can do what I do in the room, and that's release your own body and your muscle tension that you have. Now, if you want more information on how this can help you, you can definitely check out our website at www.fusionwbrecovery.com or somatics.org. But hopefully you guys understand now that pain over or dysfunction over a long period of time from the sensory motor amnesia can cause chronic tension that gets tighter and tighter and tighter. And then that chronic tension becomes a habit. And this is what leads to most common pain. If you'd like to have a private session with me, I do offer private sessions where I can help guide you through your body so we can basically find the things that you need to work the most, and I can give you your own homework routine. So if you go to our website, you can book with me. That's the functional recovery sessions. And I also teach classes. I teach privates and group classes. Right now I'm teaching once a month at the Grapevine Rec Center in Grapevine, Texas. So you can also find those on our social media and on our website as well, and our monthly newsletter. So I hope you enjoyed today's class. If you have any questions, I'm going to go ahead and post this on our social media and YouTube channel. Please comment below and I'll answer back, and we can start a good thread of communication. But I hope you guys have a wonderful night, and I hope to see you soon. And if you need any help, you know who to reach out to. Thanks.